Hi. In 1961, I think it was that year, or 1960, I was going to school at the University of Missouri, which is now called Mizzou. And I had missed a semester of school because I'd had a blood clot. So I was in a summer session, and I didn't have any money at all. It came upon, the session came very, very quickly, and one of my friends who I went to several classes with said that I could live with her for the summer, which would be a 6-week class or a session. And I was really thrilled about that because I'd already missed one semester when I had had a blood clot, and I wanted to graduate. I wanted to get through school, so I was very excited. Well, I moved in with her, and I wasn't there for more than I think a week. And during that week, there were a group of guys that lived in the same building. It was a fourplex. And those guys, as sweet as they were, they had parties all the time. They were up all night. It was really nerve-wracking. And I was on the couch because she only had a 1-bedroom, and she let me she was going to let me live with her for 6 weeks, and I would pay for food, and I didn't have to pay any rent. And I was really thrilled because I was so broke. And I did have a job. I was typing a manuscript for a professor at the college, but I wasn't going to get paid until the end of the summer, which I'm not sure why, but I wasn't. So I didn't have a lot of money. I hardly had anything. And after being there a week and hearing all this ruckus and not getting any sleep, but still going to work and going to school, she came to me one day, and I'll never forget it because when I think about it, it's one of those situations in life that you never forget. And I'm a lot older than, college kids today, so you probably, don't realize that when this was 50 years ago. When you think back 50 years, you will remember situations that stand out that could potentially change your life. Well, she sat on the couch and said, "Kay, we've just been evicted," or I have just been evicted. She meant herself. And I was in shock. "What do you mean you've been evicted? All we do is go to class and come home. We're so quiet." She said, "I don't know what happened, but the guys down the hall, I think what happened is that they are the ones that made the noise, but I've been accused of it." And I said, "Well, did you try to tell them what happened?" She said, "I did, but nobody believed me." So we had to move. And I said, "Well, how long do we have here?" And she said, "We have to move today." And I couldn't believe it because I really didn't have anywhere to go. My mother, I lived in St. Louis before I went to college. Now this is in Columbia. This is about 120 miles approximately. But my mother had just moved to California, so I really didn't have anywhere to go. And I didn't have any money. I was going to get paid something, but it wasn't going to be for about 5 more weeks. So I just sat there in shock, and it really was a scary moment for me. But I pulled myself together. She left. She went out. She said, I said, ask her what she was going to do. And she said, "Well, I'm going to move in with my sister." Her sister lived in Columbia, and there wasn't, of course, any room for me. So I gathered all my belongings, which there weren't very many. It was one suitcase that I could just carry. And I started looking for an apartment or a room really in someone's house. And I got the paper, and I walked with my suitcase because I didn't have a car. And I don't think they had buses then. All I know is that most people walked or rode bikes. So I walked with my suitcase, and I was very scared because I really didn't have any money, and I didn't know what to do. So every time I'd come to a house that was in the ad, I'd stand outside and I'd stare at the place because I was petrified. Well, finally I had the nerve to go into one of the houses, and the woman was so sweet, and she asked me all kinds of questions, and she said, "Oh, I like you. I think you'll just be perfect." And then I hit her with what the truth was. I said, well, I won't be able to pay you until for 5 weeks. And she just stared at me kind of in shock. Like, she said, oh, honey, I really would love to. You would be just perfect for this apartment or this room. But I need the money. I have to pay the bills. And I understood. I mean, what could I say? So I left, and I walked outside, and I remember very clearly I sat down on the curb, and I just started crying. And I'm not a crier. I really hold it in as much as I can. But I was petrified, and I sat there, and on the curb, I remember the way it looked. It was there were trees all over. It was a beautiful neighborhood. It was very hot. I do remember that because it was the summer. It must have been about 107, so I was sweating a lot. But I looked around, and it was a beautiful neighborhood, and I looked at my suitcase, and I just, I was devastated. What was I going to do? I didn't have I was sort of estranged from my mother, and besides, she had moved. I didn't have any money. I didn't want to lose the credit that I was getting. I'd already been in school a week. I wanted to finish that summer session, and I wanted to finish my job with this professor. I was typing a book for her. So I just sat there and I prayed. I said, oh, please, God, help me. I really need help, and I don't know what to do. I do not know what to do. So after sitting there for quite a while, I just got up and I sort of wondered. I was wondering. It was just sort of aimless wondering, with my suitcase. Where am I going to go? And I found myself downtown. It was then Columbia, Missouri. It was a very small town. So I went down to the main drag, which was Broadway, I think. It's been a long time. And there was a hotel there, the Boone Hotel. Big, large, many stories. I don't know, 3 to 7, something like that. Excuse the telephone, I forgot to unplug it. We just have to move on. And I went into the hotel, and I don't know what I was going to ask for. I didn't really have any money at the time. But I went inside, and I went up to the counter, and this guy was so sweet, and he said, may I help you? And I just burst out crying. I couldn't hold it back. I was scared. I was really scared. And he said, what is wrong? And I told him the whole story, what I've told you. And this man said, dear, this is an off season for us, and we have a very large hotel, and I'd like to invite you to stay with us. You can have your own hotel room. I said, well, how much is it? I don't even know if I can afford this. He said, don't worry. Do not worry. You can pay me when you get your paycheck at the end of the summer. He was going to trust me. He didn't even know me. And I said, well, how much is it? And he said, well, I think it's been a long time. I think he said it was $350 a day. And I thought $350, and I was adding it up in my head, and I thought, well, I could squeeze that out of my paycheck, yeah. And I also thought, oh gosh, something else will come along. And he said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'll let you stay here for 5 weeks, I think it was, for $35. And I thought, oh my gosh, $35. Then he took me and showed me my room. The hotel was air conditioned. No other place. I mean, even that place that I had just looked at, that wasn't air conditioned. And it's humid in Missouri, and it was hot. It was about 107. He took me to my air conditioned room. It was a beautiful hotel. It had a clawfoot bathtub, beautiful linens. I mean, it was fabulous. And he said, and oh, by the way, after he showed me where I was going to live or stay for 5 weeks, he said, my wife makes muffins for all the people that stay here, And every morning you can have coffee and muffins downstairs in the lobby. And then in the afternoon, you can have apples or fruit and free. And I thought, I couldn't believe it. So that's where I spent the next 5 weeks, luxuriating in a hotel. I felt like a queen. I even had my friends come over. He told me it was fine. They came over and they could have the muffins and the coffee and the apples. I mean, it was just a blessing. It was the first time that I had ever been given such an amazing gift. And of course I did really well that summer. I mean, I came home, after working, I studied in a beautiful room, and it was cool. There wasn't any noise at all. It was fabulous. And right then and there, when I was lying on the bed one night just thinking, I thought, how can this be that I was devastated, that I had lost hope for what was going to happen to me, and on the same day, I had a gift from heaven or from God. And at that moment, I had this sort of a feeling it came over me. It was very hot. It was like hot fluid was being poured through my body. I had this later on in my life, but I had never had it then. And the feeling, it was as if I knew I was being helped by the other side, by my spirit guides on the other side. I mean, I was very young then. And in Missouri, we didn't have a lot of, there wasn't a lot of knowledge about metaphysics back then. It's changed now, of course. But back then, the only person that I ever read about that was psychic or that talked about these kind of things was Jean Dixon, which I read all the time when I could get my hands on it. But that's all I knew. But for that moment and that time, I knew that was a very special thing. And that was the beginning for me to have faith that there's more to life than just the 5 senses, that we're all in this together, that there are our deceased relatives, there are our angels, there are spirit guides that we don't even know that are helping us and guiding us, and then all you have to do is ask. It's what a lot of people call prayer, and it is a form of prayer, but it's having the openness, the ability to believe that it can happen to you. And this has happened to me so many times in my life. I will come back and talk a lot more in future videos about the amazing, amazing experiences that I've had. But for that day and that time, that was the beginning for me. And I'm really, really grateful that it happened. So I'm hoping that each of you will be open to that when you're very down, really depressed, worried, scared, ask for what you want and don't expect. There's a difference. Don't be like it's gotta happen. Just be loose about it. Let it go. Ask God, ask the universe, ask your guides. I need help here. Will you? And then say what you want and then pass it on. Just let it out. And before I go, I do want to share something with you. It's something that I just read, a book I just read. This is called The Light Between Us. Let me see if I can get it in the picture. This is a book by a psychic medium called Laura Lynn Jackson. She's a high school teacher, and she has been certified. I think there are 19 psychic mediums in the whole country, and she's one of them that's been certified as having real gifts. And she wrote this book that I just read it about a month ago, and I've already given it about 6 of them as gifts to people that really can benefit from this. I'd love for you to read it because she talks about our deceased relatives. And we also have a lot of other guides on the other side too. But the stories she tells are amazing, and it'll really give you hope that there's more to life than just the physical. Some of you are there already, and you're already feeling that, but some of you have a great deal of doubts. So I'm hoping that when I share these videos or these thoughts with you about experiences I've had, it will be helpful. Because I really am hoping that each of us are in this together and that we can help each other. And for today, I hope you have a wonderful day and a great week ahead of you.